Let's get ready for Monday Mortgage Minute with your hosts, Tom McNamara and Bruce Woodburn.
As you can see, it's not Monday anymore. It's Tuesday. All right. So the Monday thing's coming out Tuesday because Tom was up in Tennessee looking to buy some property. So we'll get an update on that another time. But in the meantime, I have an important question for you. First of all, I have been watching Florida Real Estate Inside your YouTube channel and unbelievable information. I learned so much from you. If anyone listening to this wants to dive deeper into what's happening with the elimination of the property taxes in Florida, then tune into Florida Real Estate Insider. You can get the link. It's right attached to this podcast and video. So Tom, unbelievable. I know you're spending a lot of time doing all the research on this so that we can all be a little better informed. But I still don't think most people have a clue as to what's going on. I get calls every day going, hey, I'm waiting for the taxes to fall off. I'm like, you're going to be waiting a long time. So Ron DeSantis really brought all this to the forefront, wanted to eliminate property taxes, mostly for homesteaded folks. But then there were some proposals that would eliminate it for just about anything. And then all these different proposals came out and they all got literally crushed except for one of them. So from what I understand, they passed the House.
Correct.
But they slammed in the Senate.
Yeah, the Senate did something that's pretty common. They just didn't even talk about it, right? They didn't even have what's called a floor reading where, hey, this is proposed, we're going to talk about it. They didn't even do that, right? They just basically buried it, talked about a bunch of other stuff, did a bunch of other stuff.
And ran out of time.
And ran out the clock, right? So the big pushback, and at first I was pissed about the whole thing, right? I was just like, this is unacceptable. You got to, I don't care if you vote it down, right? You got to talk about it and vote on it, right? You can't just ignore it. But I understand what they did because the senators that are against it, they're covering areas that the counties that they cover get too much of their revenue from homestead. And if they lose it, they are going to have budget issues.
They are going to have budget. So
serious
let's just explain that to our listeners a little bit, because you got an area like Miami or Tampa or Jacksonville or Orlando, and you've got a lot of revenue coming in from that. But you get little places like Levy County, some Citrus County, maybe some smaller counties that just don't have a lot of big city taxpayers, right? Yeah. They're mostly rural. So if they're mostly rural, how does that affect that county or that municipality?
Yeah. So it's about, if you're going to take a pay cut, it's about how much of a percentage of that pay cut is, right? And so you look at Orange County, for instance, and I'm going to throw roundabout numbers. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but ballpark, Orange County, Florida has an $8 billion budget. And that doesn't even include the city of Orlando. That's just
the
Orange County, right? That's huge. Only 400 million or so of that revenue comes from homestead property taxes.
Insane.
So if that's eliminated, is it going to hurt? Sure. They'll have to adjust some stuff, get rid of some stuff, fix some stuff, cut some fat, whatever. Totally doable, right? Totally doable. And it can happen, right? It can be absorbed. But then you look at, and I don't remember the county exactly, but it might be Levy County.
Levy County is definitely one of them that I think
one of the smaller ones, but there's another county where it's 60 million is their entire budget, 60 million.
Yeah.
And 28 or so of it, almost 30, almost half comes from homestead property tax. So you cut that. Okay. That's a 50% pay cut. You're done. You're cooked. Right. And it's not like they have
there's not a lot of commercial infrastructure that pays into the tax base.
And the interesting thing is, even in Orange County, I think total property taxes is only 30% of the total revenue, because there's so many other taxes, all these tourist taxes, the bed taxes. They have income coming in from out of state, things like, or from the state, right? From the Fed. Whereas these little counties, they get a little bit, they have a small mining operation that throws in $5 million, right? But there's There's nothing big that's happening there that's driving revenue in. So the guy looking at that, these are my constituents. He's like, I can't do this, right? I can't do it. And so, I understand that. We got to find another
we don't
way
want to put these farming communities into a tough situation.
Hell no.
I mean,
no, I want to take care of them. We want to take care of them. They're people. They supply a lot of our food.
So a lot of these are, but here's my opinion on this. And I don't know, maybe I'm off in left field somewhere, but I still haven't heard anything that gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling as to where the replacement money is going to even come from. Nobody's come out and said, oh, this is simple. We're just going to do this, and this will barely impact you, and then give the voters the math on it. So we're going to save you 40% on your taxes on average, but it's going to cost you another $800 per year by increasing maybe the sales tax on something. So when you put it together, then people can go, oh, that's going to benefit me.
Yep.
So
so the
will impact me negatively, and then can make a decision on it.
So they're attacking it. The people that are pushing the cuts, right? They're approaching it from a perspective of, we'll find it in the fat, right? And that's 80% true in a lot of counties. It's not 100% true anywhere. I think
it also doesn't give anybody that's a voter anything that they can sink their teeth into.
That's true. But so there's two counties, if I remember correctly in my analysis, there's two counties where there's actually enough fat from the Doge audits that were done that they could cut the fat, eliminate the property taxes, and be a wash or even positive, right? But most counties it's close, but not enough. And a lot of counties it's nowhere near enough. There needs to be replacement revenue, to your point. So that's the other side of it, right? So there was one proposal that didn't go anywhere at all in the Senate, which is the Chamberlain proposal that had the tax getting raised from 6% to 9%, and it had a 5% exit fee upon the sale of a property.
But that was for all properties too.
That was for all property taxes. So even though that bill got killed, essentially, the idea of it is still floating around in the Senate, and there is a Senate subcommittee that is working on the property tax side to do exactly what you're saying, come up with a plan to replace the revenue, and they're still talking about that. So I don't know which one they're talking about. I don't know if they're only talking about the tax.
There's too many unknown things on that, because if you charge me a 5% exit fee, you got to think about that. That's the same as a real estate commission to sell your house. So if you're going to pay 5 or 6% to a real estate agent and then another 5%, you've cut into this thing by 10, 11, 12% into your house. So if you had a house for a long time, it may make it up, because you just have to factor in how many years of taxes didn't I pay? Now I broke even, or I benefited from this. But a 5% exit, is that going to account for builders? Is that going to account for home flippers if you flip a property? Because if it did, you're going to screw anybody from doing that. And we need that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I sell an average of probably 5 to 10 properties a year that are severely distressed, right? That are going to go to somebody that's going to fix it up and sell it. If they have to pay 5% and then 5% again, there's absolutely, they'd either have to get the house much, much cheaper or charge much, much more. And that's just creating.
So that was one of those things that you say it fast and it sounds okay, because if you did the math on it, other than the 5% exit fee, that actually wouldn't be a bad deal, because even though you're raising my taxes by 3% more in most cases, that's only going to cost the average American about maybe $1,000 a year, $1,200 a year more that you would spend in sales tax, but saving them maybe $5-6 grand a year, at least 4. So there's a net tangible benefit to that. But when you factor in that 5% exit fee, you're like, and if my house just goes up in value, that 5% just keeps getting higher and higher.
Yep. And then the other thing to consider in this whole discussion is that the sales tax is regressive, right? So your lower income, your renters, they're suddenly going to pay more and have no benefit.
There's never
Whereas,
been a benefit to being a renter, though.
no, and I understand, but again,
There is a segment of the population that has to rent.
yeah, and it's unfortunate, but there it is. And even if they're a homeowner, if they're lower income, an increased sales tax might hurt them more than the benefit of tax relief on property tax does. So there's an argument against that, right? That would be the argument for the exit fee. The problem with the exit fee is one thing that you mentioned, and then the other is there's no phase in on it, right? So here I am, I've paid taxes on my home that I live in for the last 26 years, right? If this gets enacted and I sell the next day, I paid all those taxes and I get to pay the stupid exit fee, right?
Exactly.
Again, like I got zero benefits. So now I'm like, oh shit, I got to hang on to my house for another 7 years for it to make sense. And those are decisions that people shouldn't have to make.
They would throw our sales into a tailspin. There's no way that could actually work. And it's funny that it's one of the ones that still has a little bit of legs left on it. However, it's not going to go anywhere. I don't think any of these are going to go anywhere until the voters have a clear idea. And then even when it's clear, it's going to get muddied up by the opposition, and they're going to go, it doesn't work like this, and it's not going to do like that. It's going to be one of those things. It's going to be, because it's still got to be a 60%, I think, majority vote.
Absolutely. That's right. So whatever the legislature decides to put on the ballot, if anything, has to be voted on, has to be passed at 60%. And that's actually a pretty high bar if you consider most renters are going to be against it if they're voting, right?
Yeah.
Because
the renters vote.
I'm sure some of them do.
Somebody does.
So there's that, right? And then on top of that, there's a lot of confusion. I still see on my channel with this video, this last video get some pretty good views and a lot of interaction, right? A lot of comments, a lot of information out there. And a lot of people are confused. They're like, immediately, what about fire? And I'm like, okay, that's great. Do you think that your county only gets taxes from you? And there's, again,
a lot of people don't quite understand where the tax base comes from. So we got about a minute and a half here. Yeah. Tell us where most of this tax base, or give us an idea as to where a lot of the tax base comes from. Because like you said, it's not all from homesteaded properties.
No, as a matter of fact, I think the most that it is like 30% of a county's budget comes from homestead property tax. For the most part, it's in the 5 to 8% range, right? Okay. For most counties and even cities. So, they have diversified income streams. They get a lot from commercial. They get a lot from non-homestead, which would be second homes and vacation homes and renter properties, right? Rental property. Right. But then they get a lot from like hotel tax and tourism tax.
How about gas tax? Do they get anything from gas?
That's earmarked for roads. They do get it. But that's earmarked for roads, right? So that's one of the few taxes that's actually like a direct, you can correlate exactly within reason. There's very little fudge in there. Whereas the general fund, it might be for the police or fire, but it also might give you a hologram of the mayor in the Jacksonville airport, for instance.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a little more movement around that. But so these bigger counties, they get a lot more money from different sources that have nothing to do with property taxes at all. And so, when that's the case, then, they're better off, right? Because they're not beholden to one side or the other.
Multiple streams. There's multiple.
Yeah. And here's what a lot of people think is that the state somehow is involved in property tax money, and they're absolutely not.
So there's none of our property tax money that goes to the state.
Zero. None. Some of the school tax does. So the non-school definitely does not. Some of the school tax does, because the more wealthy school districts actually put in a little bit more than they get back. And some of it goes to the rural counties to help them out. So there's a little bit of revenue shifting in there, but not much. It's just some of it, which is why some of your counties have much better schools than others, right? Because that's a whole different side of the, I haven't even gotten into that side of the equation.
So listen, just to wrap this up, this is great information. However, it doesn't look like anything's going anywhere at this point. There will be a special session.
Yes.
They're going to force the special session. I'm assuming they can do the same thing and sit on their thumbs and just not even talk about it again, which is likely what's going to happen again. So for all of you folks that are counting on your taxes going down or being eliminated, it's not going to happen. Not anytime soon. And Ron DeSantis doesn't even have, he's done in January.
Correct.
So he's a lame duck at that point. God knows who's going to get in here next. And will they even have this on the agenda? Probably not. I don't think it's got a lot of legs. I think it's going to have to be reborn again.
I think both of the leading Republican candidates have it as part of their platform.
I just hope they can find a better way to make it happen.
They got it.
Time, go to Florida Real Estate Insider at Florida Real Estate Insider. Check out Tom's videos on it. We try to keep you guys informed so you know the truth about what's happening. If you have suggestions on things that you'd like us to discuss, call Tom, call myself. We're happy to do the research and make sure that you're fully informed. If you need a mortgage, I'm always there to help you purchase, refinance, build, home equity line, reverse mortgages, renovation loans, construction loans, you name it.
Do it all.
Do it. If you're looking to buy or sell a house, Tom can help you in all 50 states. So great real estate resource. Tom and I are always here to help you. Tom, it's always great talking to you. Hope you have a great week, my friend.
Bruce, you as well, my friend.
Thank you.